Welcome back to another episode of Check In with Chris Brown. I have Mr. Matt Elwell of Elite Closing Academy. I worked with Matt for a couple of years ago. Probably been 18 months-ish since I last seen Matt. And Matt added a philosophy of selling and closing to my repertoire, having learned the traditional high-ticket sales stuff and studied with everybody that you could ever imagine when it comes to sales, closing, high ticket selling, especially related to, the coaching industry or fitness. And Matt added a toolbox of skills to my toolkit that I feel very grateful to have in my skill set today. Now, where I love what Matt does, and I'm going to say this straight up as well. I feel like a lot of people are parroting the stuff that you teach right now. And that's a big reason for me bringing you on here, is that I like to credit teachers. One, I think it's incredibly important. It's in integrity. Like if you learn something from someone, credit it forward. And then secondly, I think we're in a really strange time when it comes to selling, people wanting to be on the phone, communication, I just think in general. And then also I think there is a deeper side to you that people may not know. Those that are close to you will, but the wider audience, I don't think. Yep. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And agreed. I think there's so much information out there, isn't there, at the moment? And when you delve into it, there's two types of information as far as I can see. There's experts who live it, breathe it, understand it inside out. You could ask them anything and they can't get got. Mm-hmm. And you can sense that it comes from a place of love, service, understanding. And then there's the other type, which has been copied, learned from a textbook. It's not flowing. And by the way, I'm not making that wrong. Because I think we all learn. I certainly do. I'm looking to learn from, great people and leaders in industries. And I think we all sort of, take bits, make it our own. I get that. And even then, you can tell the difference between two people that are creating it or have learned it, in my opinion.
It's really interesting you say that, because there's a big part of the work that I'm doing with clients right now, and it's around their personal transmission.
Yeah.
And I think we were just chatting, like the industry of consultants, coaches, teachers, trainers, you name it, no matter what vertical that's in, there are many, many, many people doing it.
Yeah.
And what I find in today's world is that people are seeking and searching strategies and tools. And what I actually believe is like, it's a inward out thing. And I think, as you were saying, it's like, do you embody the things that you teach and share and gifting to other people? And that's felt differently, right? And I think if somebody's teaching something, and I can hold my hand up, this is how I used to be. I'd read books, I'd buy courses, I would learn, and I'd have a cognitive understanding of it. And then I would teach that thing and it would work, and I'd try it myself and I'd modify it. I think the difference of who I am today is that I focus far more on who I am showing up in the world as opposed to what information I can give somebody in order to get the credibility or respect from someone.
Yeah, get it. I just did a 2-day training for members of sales teams, so not business owners or anything like that. And they came along and what I explain in my trainings, I go, look, what I'm teaching you is how I speak. Mm-hmm. Like what I'm teaching you is how I have always conducted myself as a person in a conversation. I'm not teaching you like greaseball tactics or trickery, or I'm not trying to get someone to do something they don't want to do. I'm literally having a natural conversation in a consenting environment where maybe somebody's, I don't know, downloaded something or clicked on something or moved towards me or my company. And then all I'm doing in my sales conversation is just like talking to them. And I think actually anything that's easy, anything that's natural, certainly that's how I teach and how I think about what I teach. I think anything that's natural is and effortless and easy. Those are the things that are the best, really.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Well, that leads us perfectly into, because we didn't really start with like what it is you do. And tell us a little bit about your philosophy, 10, 15 seconds of...
Yeah, I mean, I created a philosophy called open with a close. Just means in a sales environment where two groups of people, two humans, two businesses are looking to both come out the other end even stronger, is to start with what's obvious. Don't do all the fluff, cut the bullshit, say it as it is. Go straight to like, what result do they want to get for this to be a great investment? And if you feel that the answer to that question, it's like the end in mind, the result they're going to get. If you feel that your product or service can facilitate that, then continue. And if you don't, stop and either be a stakeholder for somebody else or like end it. You know, like don't go into the whole salesy stuff and trying to create all these new ideas and trying to turn somebody that isn't a good fit into a good fit and all that. And that's my philosophy. It's like I learned to do it in a family business, in a retail showroom where we used to sell tiles and bathrooms. It's just like, just say it as it is, have a conversation, keep it natural. And if both parties can progress, continue. And if you can't, don't.
Yeah, because that environment's always, it's browsers or people who are very standoff from salespeople.
Massive.
And you've got to bridge that gap very quickly versus somebody who's booking a call with a coach with the intent of buying something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, so retail is what I call a non-essential, or a tile and bathroom is a non-essential. So you're not going to die if you haven't got a bathroom or a tile or whatever. And it's still a pleasurable experience. It's things that people can want. In other cases, it could be, you know, you could have a leak or something. There's a bit of urgency. But I think in a non-essential environment, you have to establish very quickly buy-in from the possible buyer. They've got to want it. And actually, I teach those principles for coaches. I teach those principles for everybody I teach with. It's like, if you're trying to get someone to buy from you, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's meant to be their idea to buy in the 21st century, not yours.
Yeah. Let's dig into that.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, I think, you know, the old-fashioned 1970s, 1980s car sales approach is a thing of the past now. And I think, you know, anybody that's in a business or has a business or product or service that genuinely cares about other humans, that genuinely can get other people a result, help them progress, solve a problem, accelerate a result, something like that. I think if that's you and you're listening to this, then like your job is not to get them to buy off you every time. Like, that's not what you're meant to do. And again, when I say that out loud to a lot of people, like, you are. Well, I'm not meant to talk people into it. I'm not. Of course you're not. It's 2022, 2023. Like, what year is it, 2023?
23.
I just lost you. It's 2023. You know, you're not meant to be explaining everything. You're not meant to do, like, big pitches. You're not meant to do features, advantages, benefits. The internet does that. You know, your written proposals, the visuals. Like, we live in a world where you're meant to show people, not tell people. And you're meant to trust possible buy. It's a buyer's market. So, you know, the buyer has got everything at their disposal and you've got to trust that they know what they want, but they won't know what they need. And again, so what most untrained salespeople do, or, you know, people that have got great intentions, they think their job is to explain what the person needs. It's not. Because the person doesn't know what they need. So now you're out of alignment. So if you've got an expert in fitness talking to somebody like me, who's not an expert in fitness, clearly, it doesn't mean to say I don't work on my health, which I do. I'm not an expert in it yet. So if I've got an expert trying to tell me why I'm wrong, which is my experience, by the way, then straight away, we're out of rapport. I always say, stand up if you love being wrong. Like, no one stands up. So most people that can't sell, first thing they do with somebody like me is they make me wrong, make me fat. I'm like, I get it, I am. You know, they're all over me and they're people like you're overweight because of this and that and the other. And it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. Also, I'm not putting my hand up. So, like, if you're selling like that, or if those are your tactics, you've got to stop it pretty quickly. Like, the other human being that's moved toward you in some way, they've checked you out online, they've moved toward you, you've got to find out what they want from you. And you've got to not solve anything when you're selling. So that the skill is to ask and commit to understanding. And actually, like a great coach, you know, Great salespeople are coaches. They ask great questions. They gather information, but they don't solve. The solution comes when the person that's looking to work with you has given you enough information for you to decide whether they're a good fit or not. Are they a good values match? Are they hungry? Are they humble? Are they smart enough to go, I need this? And when you reverse it round and have a sales process where the possible client is talking themselves into it rather than you trying to talk them into it, that's when you've mastered it. You got to do it the other way around.
Beautiful. Where would you say for people to build an awareness maybe about how they are currently selling? So they might be selling in the way they're trying to convince somebody or to make them feel a lot of pain and twist the knife. And
a lot of those tactics are still there, sadly. And, in time, there's enough ethical trainers and there's enough people like you and I teaching in what I call, the right way, where you don't have to twist the knife. You have to commit to understanding. And that's the key thing. So I think to answer your question directly, great question, Chris, it's like, so what are the signs that you're doing it wrong? Well, the first one is you'll feel uncomfortable inside. So I always say, like, if you do or say anything in a sales conversation that makes you feel like uncomfortable or icky or just like that's not your natural style, you got to stop it straight away. You just have to. Because when you go to bed at night, like, it's your head on the pillow. It's your spirit, it's your soul, it's your emotions. Like, if you're being a grease bag, even if you've got good intentions. So that's the first thing. Like, if you feel uncomfortable, stop it.
Well, it never feels good anyway,
Well, it should.
Yeah. In that instance, if you're saying things that are out of alignment, it always leaves a bitter taste in both people's mouth, and you kill the relationship.
Totally. I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing is you'll notice what I call a move away from energy. So you'll be having lots of great conversations. You might be creating lots of opportunities. You might have a big following. You might be getting inquiries, but you just don't. At the end of the month, you just haven't got enough people that are paying you for your services because they want to. So you'll either sense that people are like, you'll hear a lot of excuses like, Chris, I'd love to work with you, but it's not the right time. I'd love to work with you, but I can see the value, but it's not the right time, or I need to have a think about it. It's too much money or whatever. Like that you'll notice that, because like you think about your best clients, they don't say that. They're like, Chris, I can see the value and I'm going to move ahead. I'd like to go with that one.
Yep.
Now, you've done a good job when they're moving towards you rather than away. So that's like the second telltale sign. And I think the third telltale sign that there's an opportunity for you to do it better is internal peace. If you're the opposite of peaceful when you're selling and you're frustrated or you're trying to get people over the line, you might make sales, but that client becomes a pain in the arse. They don't do the work. They don't get the result. You got them over the line for the money, but really it was you just getting them over the line. And like, we've all done that, by the way. Like, I've done it in the past many times. We've all done it. But I think like those are the three key things. You'll notice that the people that are buying, they don't really feel aligned to you. You're frustrated. Your energy's low because you have to put all the energy in to get the result. And
overpromise, overcommit.
Yeah. And I think lastly, the thing I notice the most is the companies that mean well but haven't found a congruent style that's in line with their values to sell yet. What they tend to do is overpromise and underdeliver. And actually the skills to do it the other way around is to underpromise and massively overdeliver, so that every single time a client has a connection with you, your team, a conversation, a touch point, a coaching session, a training session, that they're like walking away going, oh, I'm so glad I'm in this. I'm so glad I bought this. This is amazing. I'm loving it. And that's that all comes from the way you sell.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, the best part of the sale will probably be when they take the money, because they're consistently overpromising on things that they don't have capacity to deliver on. And then the reality of delivering the work that they've promised the client shows up very quickly after they take payment.
Yeah.
I think it's a huge challenge.
Oh yeah, that's where all the headaches come.
Well, yeah. And I've done that for sure with like running agency models in the past where we're doing ads for people, building funnels. Like there's a lot more work that goes into that than the prospect realizes.
Yeah,
firstly, than you realize. Secondly, and I mean, I would estimate for me to be thrilled with the amount of work that I had to do for that in the past, it probably would have been 3 or 4 times the investment.
Totally.
And that's down to me overpromising to get a deal over the line and to get a client.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody in the car on the way up here today, and I said to him, look, this is an online fitness coach. And he was like, look, I've got this fitness coaching thing. Nobody's buying it. It's too expensive. Like everybody says they can't afford it. And I said, tell me your offer. Mm-hmm. Like, what do I get at the end? And he was like, well, I'm not really sure. I said, no. If I was to invest in your 90-day program, what do I walk away with? And it was really flaky. It was like, oh, well, you'll have more tools and you'll have more confidence and you'll lose a bit of weight. I went, nobody's waking up in the morning going, hey, I really need some new tools. Mm-hmm. It's like, what do I walk away with? Like, what's the end result? What's the tangible? And it doesn't even have to be like 20 kgs of fat or 10 kgs of fat. It needs to be like you walk away with a personalised health and fitness strategy for you.
Yep.
Through, in his case, through the power of boxing, through the skill of boxing. And he was like, oh, ping, that makes sense. So I said, so the first thing is like, you got to have an irresistible offer. And then I said, like, the other thing is, like, tell me what else is in it. He's like, well, you get a bit of this. I went, it's no good to me. Like, get everything in there and make it, like, really sexy and really exciting. And he'd, like, created millions of, like, beautiful videos and stuff. And, you had to buy them online. I said, put them all in the program. Just put it all in. And really sort of just make sure people get a massive result from it. Mm-hmm. Make sure that everything they need's in it. And make sure it's something tangible. So I feel like I've slightly gone off track there.
No.
But just tell me, how did I get to that point? What were you saying?
Yeah, it was basically we'd gone through their own personal like awareness of what they're selling, how they're selling. If the best part of it is that you make the sale, collect money, but then have to work hard to deliver. It's because you're overpromising.
Yeah,
and tightening up your offer.
Yeah, thanks. And that's the point. It's like, get an offer that when somebody buys it, it's so good. It's so powerful. Like they walk away going, fuck, that was amazing. Like that is all. I've got what I wanted and loads more. Mm-hmm. And I think when you've got that, by the way, people buy it.
Well, they buy certainty, right? And
they buy results.
Yeah.
Like that, what they want is the result at the end, and that's the skill. It's and Chris, this is why I said it. I probably didn't say it that well earlier, but the rule is to sell people what they want, which is the result. So find out what result they would need to get or they want to get for it to be a great investment, and then give them what they need. Mm-hmm. That's the skill. Sell them what they want, give them what they need.
I believe sales is a spiritual pursuit. You touched earlier on the fact that selling is coaching and it's very transferable. Why do you believe that there's like what makes sales important to you? Like what is like there's a reason why you've devoted your life to it. And I know there's a deeper side of you and there's a part of you that you always communicate. There's another human being, there's another human being, there's another human being. And that's intentional, that language. I know it is.
Yeah. Well, I think great question. I think firstly, I just want to clear something up about sales and coaching. Mm-hmm. What I really meant is that if you can ask great questions and you're a coach, then you should be a great salesperson because great salespeople ask, they don't talk. Mm-hmm. They ask questions and commit to listening and gathering information first, and that's a real skill. And most salespeople don't do that. Most salespeople think they have to pitch and talk, and you shouldn't be doing that now. The rule is if you're having to explain it all, you're losing in sales. So that's what I meant by that. Gather information first. No, don't solve. Gather first, and then decide whether or not you're a good fit. But to answer the question, I mean, a couple of things. Firstly, like selling is emotional for people, buyers and sellers. And the reason why I'm passionate about it is two things. One, when I had a family business I started in 2000 in the tile and bathroom industry. And in 08, 09, we'd invested quite a bit of money in our family business, and we bought a piece of land and we built a 6,000 square foot 2-story showroom before a big recession, but then in the middle of this big recession. It was called the credit crunch of 08, 09, and it was horrible. Yeah, it was horrible. Some younger people listening to this like, what's that? But it was like much worse than the pandemic. It was like the world had stopped. Well, I'll tell you how bad it was for anybody listening to this. The banks went bust.
Yeah.
The banks had no fucking money. Like, that's pretty bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
When all the banks have got no money, you got a problem. And that's what we'd invested quite a lot of money, and we'd borrowed a lot of money and invested in the business. And this big recession came along, and we were in the south of Birmingham, and we're in a niche market, tile and bathrooms. We were a family business. And in the south of Birmingham and central Birmingham, there were probably about 35, 40, 45, 50 tile and bathroom companies, some big ones, and then quite a few family businesses. And we kind of knew each other a little bit, quite a lot of us knew each other. And sadly, quite a lot of our competitors that were in the small to medium-sized bracket like we were, the family businesses, quite a lot of them went bust. And it was interesting to see, because a lot of them, when it first came, the credit crunch, the first thing most of them did was throw money at marketing. Like, they just went all out on marketing. Fair enough, they were like, we've got to get more leads, we've got to generate more leads. And I don't come from a marketing background. I come from much more of an old-fashioned, I was trained in the photocopying industry years ago with, talking to people, cold calling, over the phone, all that kind of stuff. So my go-to thing was, let's talk to all the people we know rather than marketing. In fact, let's switch our marketing budget off. Let's get rid of our cars. Let's take all the things that cost us unnecessary money, get rid of them all, which we did. For I think about 18 months, I walked to work and back during that credit crunch, which wasn't far, by the way. I lived in the village. I got rid of my car. I had this big, massive BMW. I was like, I don't fucking need this, and it's costing us a load. I just got rid of it. Most of my competitors bought Range Rovers and leased Range Rovers, and they were giving it the whole, we're a business owner and all the rest of it. And sadly, a lot of them went bust. And I realised then that if you're great at sales, you'll never be poor again, emotionally or financially, because like we spoke to people that we already knew. We were like, hey, we're in the middle of a credit crunch. We get it. Who do you know right now that's investing in their home, that's looking for tiles and bathrooms? What projects have you got coming up? And we just moved towards people we already know. And actually that's what got us through it. And we sold our way through it, slashed all our costs and sold our way through it. So that was the first thing. And quite a few people that went bust were, when I found out, they didn't have those skills. They didn't have those skills. They were scared of sales, which is interesting experience to go through. And then when I sold my shares to my brother in my trading company in 2017, I was going to have like a couple of years off. And there was something inside me, having been through the credit crunch and come out the other side and seen other people really struggling. We struggled too. It was tough. There was something inside me that was going, you have got information about sales in your philosophy, your style, human-to-human interaction, powerful questions, powerful conversations. You have got a skill that not nobody else, but I'm not seeing elsewhere. And I was really interested in coaching and teaching and training. I was a mentor for England Rugby. In 2015, I was selected as a volunteer to be an ambassador for rugby at grassroots level in the Czech Republic. And England invested quite a bit of money in me and 23 other young leaders. You had to be under 40 at the time, because they were looking to develop leadership at grassroots level in rugby. So I did a leadership course at Ashridge University, and we did some psychology and we did some coaching in it. These were new skills for me, Chris, and armed with my knowledge of being an entrepreneur and having sales skills, and armed with this sort of desire to coach and teach and mentor, it just became obvious to me that I should go and teach sales. And I didn't know how. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just had a vision of, I want to become a speaker. I want to become a teacher. I want to become a trainer. I want to be a coach, a consultant. I could just imagine me sharing what I knew and developing other people, which really is a big passion of mine, serving others, developing other people. And I just woke up one morning and I was like, it was actually October the 4th, 2017. And I was like, I've been getting pissed a lot. I've been playing a lot of golf and I'm not fat enough anyway. I was like, I don't need this shit. And I'd had a bit of time off. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go and teach this. So it was like, I just had a big vision and a real passion to share what I knew. And then the mechanics of how I was going to set my company up and how I was going to start it, I didn't let that get in the way. I just started. And that's how it started, really.
So much to unpack there. I think like it's a huge piece of where I'm at right now. Like I think for most people, selling the solution to the problem they had is like the thing that they should find in their life, because there's nothing more embodied than that. You know, you didn't wake up as a bathroom fitter one day and I'm going to be a consultant teaching people how to sell, right? It's like you went through that painful, challenging like period of time where you made it out alive and a lot of people didn't. And then you're like, people, yeah. And people need this. And I think there's twofold of what I'm coaching people on right now: personal transmission, like who they are, who they're showing up as, and then secondly, like their own manifesto, like what is their philosophy, their belief, I call it dharma as well. Like what was your soul born to do on this planet? And that's why I love what you just shared. It's like these are the things that you learned and you went through in a practical world. Then you discovered leadership and you fused those two things together. And now you've got a beautiful service and product that is changing 133 companies that you're working with.
Yeah, at the moment in the academy, we've got 133, I think maybe even a few more than that now. And also we're developing, I'm out to Germany next week to work with a really, really big company actually. I'm really excited about it. I think they're turning over about 325 million and they've got 600 salespeople globally.
Wow.
And we've got a pilot scheme where we're going to teach them the open with a closed philosophy, the language, the questions, the mindset that I teach. And hopefully we can roll that out. So yeah, that's really exciting.
October 2004, 2017, did you think that you'd be in the situation that you're in right now?
No, I think what I did know is, or what I believe in is to have a vision. And I think, anybody listening to this, like, I think you need to be able to look forward and like literally piss yourself with excitement in this life. And a few times in the last 5-6 years, I started this company, the company I've got now, the Elite Closing Academy, 5 years ago. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary. And probably for 18 months of the last 2 years, I've actually lost sight of an exciting vision. I've got it back now. So how I started this company was just like a big, massive, exciting vision. I was like, I am going to share my information with the whole of the world. And that's that. Like, that was kind of that was like my vision. I was like, I want to be the go-to sales communicating, sales trainer, communication trainer, mindset trainer there is when it comes to exchanging contracts, having powerful conversations, selling your products and service, as long as the other person wants it and has put their hand up as being at least somewhat interested, and as long as when somebody buys the product or service, it gets them a tremendous result. And that was the vision. I didn't have any mechanics. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I was just like, that was the vision. And then actually how I started was, and I'd recommend this to everybody if they haven't done it, like, do it now. Just write a list of all the people you already know who might possibly know someone that might possibly need what you do. And I actually made a list of 24 people to start this training and coaching company on my kitchen table. And I just went through my phone, my computer phone, and I was like, who do I know that might know someone that might need a sales consultant? That was about as good as it got. And the first person I wrote down was my sister, Tamar Hughes. She was and still is, the HR director of a really big company. And I cold called my sister. And you should always cold call people you know first.
Yeah.
Why would you cold call businesses you don't know before you cold call all the people that are following you on Insta and social? Like, cold call them first. They already know you. So that's how I started it. And she she actually said, well, look, bro, she said, we don't like have salespeople per se. We're an insurance company and whatever. She said, I'll tell you what I have got though. She said, I've got a really big training and learning and development budget, of which I've got quite a bit left this year. And she said, I'd like to introduce you to somebody. And she said, and because you're my brother, if you don't tell anyone, I'm going to pay for you to go on some business coaching. She says corporate business coaching with a guy called Andy Gilbert. And his company is called Go Mad About Thinking. And straight away I was like, well, that's interesting. Like a thinking company, like what the hell's one of them? You know, I was trapped in the world of like entrepreneur, small business in South Birmingham. I'd never heard of a thinking coach, you know, what the hell's one of them kind of thing. So she got me on this course, and it was 4 days in a place called Loughborough, and every ounce of my ego was saying, don't go. It'll be full of fucking knobheads. Corporate types who, you know, you've got nothing in common with corporate types. They're just going to be knobheads. They'll be LinkedIn wankers. That was what I thought about them. Like, that was how shallow my thinking was. And that's how shallow I was as a person at the time. I was totally trapped. I was so arrogant, thought I knew it all. That was my mindset. Anyway, her gracefulness was, look, mate, she said, I know you won't want to go, but you got to, you'll love it. And what I think what she could see in me was a big blind spot for me. I think she could see in me that I had a pattern of behaviour that was holding me back a lot, thinking I knew it all. And I don't suppose she could say that to my face. So she, you know, she gave me an opportunity and then kind of pushed me not to do what I normally do and not go.
Yeah.
And I remember that being a real moment in my life, thinking that's really graceful from my sister.
Yeah.
And she's trying to tell me something. And I got in the car a few weeks after that had happened to drive to Loughborough, which is about an hour from my house. And 3 times my ego told me to turn around, and 3 times I actually got off the motorway. 3 times. And eventually I thought, no, come on. Like, this is a really good opportunity that someone's given you. And I could sense my, you know, my defensive mechanisms, and, you know, it was an opportunity to grow, and I was not taking it, you know. Anyway, I got there somehow. And I walked through the door, and like, I just wanted to turn around, you know. There they were, all the LinkedIn wankers, you know, with their jackets on and their brogues and all that. And again, I'm being so judgy and like, what am I doing? And I was like, no, just stop being such a knobhead and get yourself involved. And about 35 minutes later, it was like, bang, it was like my whole soul had been theorised by Andy Gilbert. You should check him out. If you're a coach or a thought leader, he's a really, really powerful person to know. Anyway, the training was based on, he'd done a 2-year study on 200 of the world's greatest individuals, so CEOs of massive companies, Olympians, like big, serious leaders in business and sport around the world. And he did a study on how they think, and he created this amazing framework and taught me a great thing. One of them was about how to possibility think, which is another subject altogether. So I was hooked. Anyway, on day 4 of this training, we had to do one thing. And he said, so look, 4 days, just one action. So my action was to ring the 4th person on the list that I made on October the 4th, because I'd only rang the first 3. My sister was the first. My first boss was the 2nd, and an old rugby friend was the 3rd. Now, number 4 was a guy called Nick James, who I knew his granddad from the golf club, and he'd actually been on my stag do a few years earlier. We knew each other's friends, but we weren't like in each other's bubble, you know. We were kind of in the same social circles, and it ended up coming on my stag because somebody dropped out at the last minute. And so we knew each other well enough, you know. And I'd been following his career, and he's in the event space and in the coaching and how would you say, expert space, you know, authors, speakers, trainers, that kind of stuff. Lots in the fitness industry as well, as you probably know. And I'd been following him and I'd been intrigued, but again, my pattern was to not move towards, stay safe. So that morning, I did something I'd never done before because, again, I thought that everybody on Facebook was a knobhead. And that morning, I posted, Matt Elwell is at Go Mad Thinking, and I posted it on my Facebook page for the first ever time, a check-in. And I was like, oh, I can't believe I've done that. But I did it. And I turned my phone off all day. And at 5 p.m. that night, my action was to call Nick James, who I hadn't spoke to for ages. And we weren't that close. Turned my phone on and beep, 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 message Nick James. What are you doing at Andy Gilbert's place? He's a past customer of mine. And why aren't you, at your family business kind of thing? And that was it. And 2 days later, I was coaching and training his sales team. And 2 days after that, he was like, wow, you've tripled my sales. How much money do you want? Like, you just got to be in my business. And he's never got rid of me since. Mm. We're business partners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's funny how, like, I would call it that the shadow, the part of us that we repress, suppress, or deny. Yeah. That part of you that didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And I always say to clients, it's like when you have awareness of the pattern that's playing out in your life, you're no longer it. It no longer has the hold on you. At least you have a negotiation with the pattern as opposed to automatically being wrapped up and swept up by it.
Yeah. What I didn't realise, Chris, sorry to interrupt you,
go.
was that pattern was that was like the first layer of the onion. Mm-hmm. And like I'm 6 years down the line from that. Mm-hmm. And I'm working on patterns at the moment. Like I was with, my coach is from Utah and he's a leadership coach, and he was the leader for like a 3,000 staff, a big company in America. And we're working on 4 things: mindset, action, spirituality, and kindness. And this last week, like the number of patterns I'm still running now that are holding me back and holding others back is unbelievable. And I was like, another pattern, and like this one's really tough because I was actually in a mastermind group that he's in, and all of them said the same thing. And I was like, fuck, that is so obvious. Yeah, it's been a blind spot. It wasn't really. I've just been suppressing it and pushing it to one side. So I think, again, anybody listening that's going through this, what I'm finding, it's like an endless summit. There is no, you ain't going to get there, are you? It's like,
it's a spiral downward that never ends,
It's like, you've got to surrender to the fact that actually part of it is you're never going to get there.
And I think that's like, those pieces are the parts that keep them from calling people up, the fear of what that person thinks of them, fear of looking desperate, fear of looking in need, not asking for help, being a lone wolf and feeling like you've got to do everything on your own and nobody else can do it as well as you can. There are so many parts of like the deeper self that hold us back. It's like, I believe every person who is a teacher, a coach, or a mentor should have therapy of some description because you are a projection for your clients. Like what you share and what you teach and what you say to them, the advice you give them should be as clean as possible, meaning that you don't have your own bias laid upon top of that and giving them advice with it.
Well, I've been working on therapy recently. I've had a sugar addiction since I was 22 and it kind of like, it's a bit like a monster. So there are times in my life where it is just like out of control and it's raging. And there are other times where I'm good. I'm on top of it and like my blood sugar levels are great. My blood pressure is great. I do a lot of yoga and I'm good. And then there are other times where it just great. And it can happen like on the same day. And I started the therapy about 4 weeks ago. And yeah, it's really tough and it's required. And I don't think it's going to be a one and done, So yeah, I agree. I think, and again, 5 or 6 years ago, mate, you'd have never got me near a therapist,
Yeah.
No chance.
It's like, I honestly, like if people aren't having come toward energy, like you would call it, people reaching out to them, asking for help, just from who they are in the world, then it's not very clear about what you do, but also that you're capable of leading someone else. And I think personally that if you are the example for your clients, most people are solving a problem like they previously had. If you're the example for your clients, then you should be an extreme example of that.
Yeah.
And I know you know, it's not like you sit there and teach sales and never pick up the phone.
No.
It's like,
well, I agree with that. I think it's a great point. I mean, I see what I teach when I teach sales, it's how I make all my money. Mm-hmm. It's how I actually do it. Mm-hmm. So it's not theory designed to screw people up so they then buy my training. Actually, it's the opposite. It's like I want people to learn my philosophy and make sales really natural for them, to be in line with their personal values so that they feel like really comfortable, and then they can crack on, have a great sales conversation. If it's a great fit, present a couple of offers, let the other person that's looking decide which offer is going to get them the best result, exchange the contract, exchange the money, and then jog on and go and get them an amazing result. And you know, I believe that then it becomes like a win for the client, a win for the business owner, a win for the universe. Everybody's good, everybody's happy, and like it's just not that hard, is it, when you think about it? So yeah, like for me, going back to your point, I'm like, when people come to my training centre in Birmingham, right by the international airport, and by the way, Birmingham's great now, it's not a shithole anymore. Like I want them to see me doing it, and I want them to see me and my team doing it, and I think it's important that, you know, and maybe this doesn't apply to everybody, but from my point of view, I'm going, it's important that my customers, my clients, can actually see that how I teach is how I do it, and that I can do it better than anybody because I'm not trying to do it. I'm doing it. It's my habitual self in conversation when I'm selling, following a very simple process. And by the way, one of the things I would say about selling, if anybody's like actually listening, that's interested to know how do I sell, is the number one rule is to not wing it. You must have a process. You know, you've got to have a framework. You've got to have a process. And the thing about how I teach and train and sell is I never cut any corners. I'm really systematic with, here's the process. We're here. That's the logical next step. That's the next thing to do. That's the next thing to do. And I am following an exact science that I've created, and I never cut corners, as you know, ever, never cut the corner. And the compliments that people that are sold to by me that I get is, that was really nice, thank you, really nice conversation, I'm really glad I'm in, thanks for closing me. And it felt so effortless and elegant and graceful and easy, and it wasn't pushy. And I say to him, thank you for the feedback, but just so you know, absolutely, I didn't wing anything. I followed an exact process. It's repeatable. Now, in between the process and the framework, your personality's got to show up. And the natural human-to-human interaction should happen. That doesn't mean say you've got to ask about their health and their kids and build rapport and all that crap. It means in the moment that you're caring for the other person, that you're using your people skills, that you've got their best interests at heart, and you're looking to be easy to buy from. You're looking to create an experience for the customer in the moment that's elegant and graceful and effortless for them. You want it to be easy for them, and you want it to be conversational, and you can't do that by winging it, because it's a really important distinction about sales. Buyers use emotion to buy. Great salespeople aren't emotional, they're logical. They follow the process and then allow their natural intuition and natural personality to roll in the moment. And that's, you know, when you do that, that's when people will compliment you. That's how it works.
Well, that's when you're in the hands of a professional as well. And I think that's when you need to, like, to tie that in as well. It's like you need to get beyond your own stuff, right? Yeah. A lot of people, they're trying to justify and validate their own worth to the person, to be like, I'm worthy of you trusting. And it's quite the opposite.
Well, it doesn't work because it actually puts the buyer off, the possible buyer off, because, you know, great salespeople don't justify or validate. They ask and gather and then decide whether or not they're a good fit and go, so here's the options. It's a bit like if you go the way I do it, as you know, is it's a bit like if you go to a restaurant. If you walk into like a nice restaurant, a nice steak restaurant, you walk through the door and firstly, you're not there for soup. You're there for the steak. So you've gone to the steak restaurant. You never remember the starter, and you're not there for the starter. That's why I'm always worried about free trials. Like, come to a free trial. It's like, I'm not sure I want a free trial. I want the result that I get when I go for the big thing, But anyway, you go into the steak restaurant and they show you a menu, and you've got Chateaubriand for 200 quid for 2 people, and you get a tiny little description about what it is and whatever. And then you get, for 150 quid, you get porterhouse. And then for 100 quid, you get sirloin, or you get, whatever. And then for 50 quid, you get rump, or, So you're in the steakhouse and there's 4 options. And if you say I'll have the Chateaubriand, you then don't go, right, now, before I have the Chateaubriand, I want to know where it's from. I want to know how long it's been hanging. And I want to know why you chose it. I want to know the farm it's from. I want to know what it ate. I want to know what testimonials you've got from people that have eaten it before. I want to know how long you've been doing it. I want to know exactly how the chef's going to cook it and how do I know the chef's good. And explain to me, pitch me why I should let the chef cook me Chateaubriand. Go on, tell me. Like, you don't do that, do you? And if you did, they'd say, why don't you just fucking get out? Like, you've got to trust us that the Chateaubriand, that we've done all those questions you've asked, you've got to trust us that we've done all that stuff for you. That's the service that we're providing, you see. We've got a great chef. We've got great meat. We source it from the best places. Now, trust works both ways. So now it's the client's turn to trust you. And you have to get that bit right. So when somebody says to me, Matt, why should I work with you? I go, great question. Now, I could rattle off a long answer because I'm biased. I think I'm a great trainer. So my answer to them is, because at the end of it, you'll walk away with a framework that's bespoke to you to make more sales. Now, let me ask you a few questions. Why do you think you should work with me? And why do you think I should consider allowing you to work with me and my team? Like, you sell it to me. And, people go, you can't say that. But I go, well, you have to say that because otherwise you're going to be doing all the hard work. And it's not meant to be like that. It's meant to be their idea to buy from you. And in the 21st century, they'll have Google searched you. They'll have been following you for a bit. They'll have checked you out on your podcast. They'll have checked you out on your Instagram. They're following. They're watching. They are watching. Even if, like, when I used to first start...
They don't discover you by accident.
Yeah, they're following. Mate, when I used to do a live, get one view or one like and my ego be like, oh, no one's watching. I still have people now who go, I saw a video of yours 5 years ago. I've been following you for 5. And I'm like, fucking hell, why didn't you comment? It would have been nice to know. So yeah, I think it's flipping it round that get them to tell you what results they want to get with you and get them to say what it is about your philosophy, your product, your service, your style that they like, that they move towards and start there.
And that's why today it's so important. Like, it's so important. So many things that you're saying, it's like clicking in my head because it's philosophies that I'm developing right now. It's like, if I'm going to be in a conversation with somebody and I've got them on the phone, they at least need to know who I am.
Yeah.
They trust me as a human.
Yeah.
And they know I can get them to the result that they desire.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's always going to be the result that they desire is in the future, and the future doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. So there's a risk of investing now, and there's a risk of them investing money in it not going right. There's also a risk of not investing. So there's a risk if you do, risk if you don't. But remember, everything in sales has to be based on trust, because if I invest in your training now and I give you 10 grand and the consult starts next week, you could run away with my 10 grand. So I have to trust that you won't. Now, the way I do that is use emotional questions like, how much is it? Have you done this before? How many other clients have you got? What testimonials have you got? How can you prove it to me? And if you then validate or try and justify, I go, red flag, red flag, red flag. He doesn't believe in himself. He doesn't believe in himself. Don't give him money. Don't give him money. So there's a new game to play. There's a completely new game to play to what most people are playing. And, it's important that when somebody buys from you, they have got no questions left. Because if they've got any doubts or any questions left, that's when they don't buy. Mm-hmm. Because the future doesn't exist and they know they need trust before they give you money. That's why you got to have a great sales process.
especially in today's world where we're in a true marketplace. We're not in a, I don't think there's very few things that are unique, that there are very few people doing something the same or similar.
Yeah.
And I think that's why having the ability to stand out in that way is so important, especially when the majority of people are selling in a archaic, dogmatic way. When you sell in a authentic way that feels easeful and effortless, and it follows a process specifically.
I used to struggle to say what I said earlier on this podcast. I used to struggle to say that my philosophy is natural and has gracefulness and elegance and ethics and integrity. I used to hold back from saying that because like it sounds really cocky and really arrogant. The truth is it just does. So I've got to say it because so many people don't have that, Chris. And it's like everybody wants it, but most people are not prepared to do something different to get it. And that's the point. In the modern world, when it comes to sales, you've got to do what's obvious and the opposite. It's called pattern interrupts. So if you ever if you're a gym owner or if you're in fitness right now and somebody wants to work with you and they get on the phone and you sound salesy, they're instantly turned off. If you use words and phrases and statements that you wouldn't use with your friends over dinner, that they're turned off. If you say things like, it's just a quick call, straight away, the buyer notices that you don't rate yourself. Like, just a quick call. Never say that. Like, the purpose why I'm calling today is, like, have a purpose, have a reason, it's noticeable. We use little words and phrases and statements like, I was just checking in. You'd never say that to anybody. I just thought I could touch base. It's like, fuck off, get your hands off my base. Like, I've got my own base covered. You'd never say that to a friend, would you? And this is why you've got to acquire skills. This is why you've got to organise your words and phrases and statements. This is why you've got to speak like you speak, in a natural tone, in a natural way. It has to feel natural to a possible buyer. And if it doesn't, and you sound salesy, or if you say things that 7 out of 10 people say, you're screwed. You'll miss a lot of opportunities.
So much to unpack. It's you don't have a lot of time today. People don't want to be on the phone. You've got a second to grab people because we're getting bombarded with PPI and missold finance or whatever it is several times a day. Facebook call me several times a day. There is a demand for our attention more so than ever.
Totally.
And there are easier pathways for people to communicate, so people will favor phones.
Yeah, and I think I don't use a phone. I use a computer with a phone on it. So I think the smart modern salesperson is using a combination of voice note, videos, email videos, text messages, WhatsApp, phone calls. The key thing is to use your voice. Like, your voice was given to you as a gift so that others can hear what's going on inside, really. And if you think about what I've just said, you actually don't need a voice. You need a heart, you need a pancreas, you need your liver, but you don't need a voice. And you think about that, you think, that's weird. So, like, at the moment, humans are not using their voice as much as they used to. Our children are addicted to, scrolling, and humans are addicted to scrolling. So the communication, the gift that was given to you so that people can hear what's going on inside, really, your voice, that is a tool. It's a really powerful tool. So my advice to anybody is use your computer phone and your voice and you'll get more connection. Your tone of voice can connect with someone really quickly. It's really interesting, actually. I've done a lot of research on this over the last few years. Study a great guy called Alan Pease, and he teaches something which is incredible, that your voice is controlled by the palms of your hands. The tone of your voice is controlled by the palms of your hands, which is interesting. Is like, if you're ever in conflict, people pointing, like, why have you changed your mind? It instantly changed your voice, as opposed to if you've got your palms open, it's a lot softer. And it's arm yourself with technology, arm yourself with your computer and all of the options on it, and then combine that with your voice and skills and your heart to serve others, and you've got power. That's the power.
Yeah, it's you as the vessel and you as the tactician, the skill set, everything that you have. Yeah. What do you see as like trends with sales now? Obviously, we go through periods of time and technology evolves, and the way in which people use technology changes?
Yeah, well, I think firstly we've got AI and Chat GPT and all of these amazing things. And I think firstly you have to, when you think about something like that, two things spring to mind. For me, firstly I go, wow, like what is this stuff? How does it all work? Where are we going with it? This is amazing. Like what an amazing time to be alive. This could be awesome. And then the other one goes, fuck me, what is this shit? Like what the fuck are we doing? So like firstly, of course, like everybody, I'm interested to see what happens here. Funnily enough, I was with someone the other day and they said to me, why don't we type in cold call script to AI or whatever it was, one of these, I think it was Chat GPT or something. Anyway, it comes back to us with a voice, with a cold call script, like that. And he goes, right, come on, Matt, this is what you do for a living. What do you reckon? And I would say to somebody that's untrained, I train it for a living, right? To somebody that's untrained, you'd go, that's decent. Like it was decent. There was a computer doing a cold call and it was decent. And it won't work because at the end of the day, it's only learning from what's been put in. And unfortunately, a lot of what's taught and a lot of what's already in about sales is crap. So that was interesting. I think the other big thing that I notice, going back to the voice, and we chatted about this before, didn't we? One of the big trends, I was at a marketing conference recently with some of the world's leading marketers, some amazing people, Ryan Dice, Ezra Firestone, to name just a couple. And they flew in from the States for this, And all of the UK's and global leading marketers that I saw speak were talking about community, we're talking about building a following, all of the stuff we know, right? And then when it came to the sale, they were talking about getting to the point where the computers had kind of done their job and then there needed to be a human-to-human conversation, which to me is heaven in a bowl because that's what I teach, that's my sweet spot, that's why I believe I'm alive. So the trend that I noticed, and I must admit I wasn't expecting it, Chris, was to get a human into a conversation, and that was really interesting to me, and great news for my company, by the way, because most people then go, what, I've got to fucking talk to someone. And here's the thing, and I know you're a big advocate, so, and I know you're great at this, by the way, so I'm not suggesting that you can't make sales without talking to people. Of course you can. Mm-hmm. And there are, you're world class at that stuff. And also you're a world class communicator. And I think when you've got the both skills, that's where I see, believe it or not, double the growth. So if you're great at marketing and you're also great at social media and you're great at automation and funnels, like some of the great stuff you teach, to build your business, brilliant, like do that. And remember, there are lots of humans that will do that and buy without talking to others. There are also lots that want to buy but need to speak to a human to calm their nervous fears system down, their nervous system down. And I'm one of those, by the way. I'm one of those. So I'll go so far in a funnel and then I go, I want to speak to someone now. I want to see them. I want to smell them. I want to taste them. I want to feel them. I want to sense them because that's a big part of my personality profile. I'm a people person. So look, I can do Zoom. I'm good with that. And even then, if it's a significant investment, I'm prepared to get on a plane. I'm prepared to drive. I want to see them. Yeah. I really do. And I think the trend that I'm noticing is the really smart companies are going to focus on both.
Well, I just think when we're in a world of AI and we can't really tell what's real and what's fake, then the individual human is the thing that separates it all. Yeah. Who you show up as in the world. And I know we were talking, we make sales with text message, but it's not the medium that's the skill, it's how you apply the medium. Yeah. And I think I could tell people I tell clients time and time again, here's how to communicate, here's how not to communicate, here's what to say, here's what not to say. Yeah. And they still fuck it up because it's not just the medium. And I think the same way in which people have phone calls or face-to-face, they could fuck that up too. And like you say, I think today's world where it's AI, automation, nobody really knows what's true and what's not. it's who you are that will separate you from everything else.
Yeah, and the personality, the humanity, the ethics, the values that you've got have to be pummeled into your funnels and pummeled into your copy and pummeled into every conversation, videos, copy, email campaigns. Like we've all seen it, you know, the charlatans that are just trying to get you to buy and all that kind of stuff. And look, I mean, the way I built my company, as you know, as one of my, you know, clients, and, you know, somebody that you know, it was wonderful having somebody of your substance in my academy. You know, you brought so much to the party. And here's the reason why. We vet who we do business with, and it's based on values. And you were a massive values alignment with our company. We were aligned. And what happens when you do business with people that are aligned, because you're ethical, because you are picky and committed to saying no to people that are not a good values match, is you build a much more sustainable, bigger, it doesn't, not bigger, I mean more sustainable, more powerful, deeper, more aligned. Like you have an impact, you actually have an impact on people and communities. Our number one purpose as a company is to develop people. It's interesting, actually, and I can answer this, I think, as part of the last question about trends. One of the trends I've noticed, particularly in the entrepreneurial space, is when I first fluked coming into the entrepreneurial space by meeting my business partner, who was in that space, I thought that entrepreneurs were all about money, and they're not.
No, impact.
Well, freedom of time, freedom of impact, freedom of service, freedom of thinking, freedom of being creative, freedom of helping others. Like they want to do that all the time. I'm like that. I know you are too. And like my goals in my business are not specifically to make cash, although of course I want to make lots of cash. You know, it's a profitable company. It's doing well. I want it to be more profitable. I want it to do even better. Of course I do. And that will come from developing our clients who then go on to get great success in their businesses, their lives. And that's when I'll grow, and that's when my company grows. And I think that's an important distinction. You know, I really do. Yeah.
And you touched on this, communities. I feel like when you choose who comes into your community, like with a rising tide lifts all boats, it's like if you have a collective community of people who are values aligned, they're a match energetically, they are aspiring to get better, then everybody starts serving each other. And that's what I see into 2024. I think there's a big movement into community because we are so separated in society. It's just that our community now isn't the neighbor next door or 2 doors down or 3 doors down. It's the self-cultivated community of people that know us, like us, trust us, but also that we vibe with. We can speak about the same things. You were saying, you know, business can be lonely as fuck, especially you can have, I train jiu-jitsu. I've got friends there and I have jiu-jitsu commonalities there, but I don't have life commonality there. I've got friends who align with me on values and purpose, but they don't align with me on business. And then I've got communities that I seek that understand the business challenges that I go through or the developmental challenges.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I've definitely experienced loneliness as part of the entrepreneurial journey, for sure. And I think, you know, this is one of the reasons why I invest in being coached and therapy. And, you know, we hear this a lot, and also looking to hang out with people that are in this world that get it, as well as the ones that don't. And I'm not being judgy in that. You know, I'm saying that, you know, you've got different buckets and you've got different groups of friends and different groups of people. And I think all that's okay and it's all good. And it's important also when you're getting super focused on your business to be around people that get it and understand it.
Be in the right environment. I think environment's one of the things that shapes and directs our life more than almost anything.
Definitely.
You put a plant in a dark room and it dies. You put it in a well-lit and well-fed room and it thrives.
You've done my training, and you know I'm an ambassador for nature and lots of animal examples. the biggest snake on the planet is an anaconda. And it's interesting, if you put a 3-foot baby anaconda in a 5-foot glass box, it never grows. But if you kick that glass box down and it slithers into the jungle, it can go to 30, 33, 34 feet. And that proves environment, doesn't it?
For sure. And I think really understanding as well that, I mean, I just got back from Sedona, Arizona. I was there for a week. I was in Mount Shasta up in North San Francisco 3 months ago. I was in Panamint Valley near Death Valley 6 months ago, out off grid in the desert. And I travel as part of a program that I'm in, a teacher training program, because the other humans and the teacher there are doing work that lines deeply with me. And I think that's the extremity in which I take my cultivation of community to. Yeah. And I think it's, if anyone's listening to this and you haven't got a coach, or you're not part of a program or a mastermind or a group of people that are professionally invested financially, emotionally, energetically, and want the skill set of that collective, I don't even think you try. I almost see it as it's a necessity.
Yeah.
Like if you have a business and you're making 3, 4, 5 grand and it's been there for a while and you're not part of a program, it's because you're not part of an environment that's raising the standard of you. And I think, I mean, my teacher John 2 weeks ago when we were in Sedona, he was like, if you don't have a daily practice, he's like, you don't deserve to be a teacher.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I joined an 8-figure mastermind last week, and honestly, 5 or 6 years ago, if you'd have said to me what you just said, I'm not having that. It's bollocks. Absolute bollocks. Like, I've got everything I need at the rugby club and the golf club, you know. Like, that was my mindset. And that 8-figure mastermind last week, I was the smallest business in there. There was one about the same as me, and then the others were like a lot bigger. And on day 2, when my turn to get hot seated came, mate, I got absolutely like grilled, and it was just like bang, immediate. Like, it was immediate. They were seeing things that I just couldn't see, and I have to say, it was liberating and scary at the same time. And I've done the work on it, quite quickly. I was like, I need to go away and do some work on that pretty quickly, which is not my natural style. I'm actually quite slow paced with stuff like that. I like to have a think about it and let it process. But it was obvious and clear to me I needed to make some changes.
It's a peer accountability as well, right? Yeah. You come back to that meeting with high performers like that and you don't do shit, they're going to be like, why is he in this group?
Well, one guy, I won't break any confidence. Really nice man. Met him a few months ago now. And then we were sat around the table in this mastermind, and he is in a completely different world to me. He's the CEO of quite a big company, and he's just got a new job. And the company he's going to turns over just under £1 billion. And like, this is a really successful guy, and he's a Glaswegian. He was brought up on the tough estates of Glasgow, you know. It's all self-made. And he gave me one sentence, and I was just like, and by the way, I'm going to share the sentence with you, and most of you go, that's not that. Yes. But in the context of the moment, he just said what was so obvious. And I just hadn't seen it, Chris. I just hadn't seen it. And he said to me, Matt, your role needs to develop and change as a leader. Now, that is not groundbreaking, is it? Like, it's just not.
It's relevant like, to where you're at.
It's like, that's not groundbreaking. But to me, it was like, because I've been stuck in it too much. All of my own accord, I've been micromanaging, I've been taking it all on. I'm like, I've got to deliver the training, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Like, the ego is overtaking me, you know. And I've got a team of really great people, and I believe in leadership and
developing people.
And developing people. And there I am, you know. Me and my business partner, Nick, we often have a laugh about this. We're like, what coaching are we giving people that we need to give ourselves?
Yeah, it's true.
And I'm sure people listening to this will probably understand or resonate. So I think, to hammer home the point, I think, those are the kind of like little 1%ers that are there if you're looking for them.
But again, it's like you chose to be in an environment that feels scary and exciting.
Yeah.
The investment probably wasn't, a small decision.
It wasn't, no. It's,
And I honestly believe it's like, Yeah, I've invested $30,000 in the program that I'm in this year, and it's got nothing to do with business.
Yeah.
And it's because I see that as the next evolution in my life, but also the biggest part of me that I want to fix. I mean, I went through divorce and
yeah, it was tough. We actually, as your sales coach at the time, we went past sales coaching a few times.
Yeah.
And I know it was tough for you, and I'm glad that you've come out the other side.
Yeah. And the reason I chose that environment to like invest in is because I could choose not to, right? And I think in this lifetime, my teacher asked all of us, he was like, what do you need to do before you die in order to die complete?
Big question.
Big
question.
Big
Fucking
question.
Hell, how long have you got?
And I don't think coaches or teachers it's not an easy career. It's not something that you always choose. Sometimes it slaps you in the face and it's like, this is the work that you need to do in the world. Your dharma, it's the thing that chooses you more so. And I believe for a lot of people out there that you work with and I work with, they are at risk of under-fulfilling their potential impact in the world, the freedom that they can have for their own family. And I think that for me is like one thing that really strikes me. It's like, am I going to under-fulfill my role in this collective community by the time I die? And what impact will that have on my kids and how they show up on the world? Because a lot of the work I'm doing at the moment is karmic work. So the lineage of our family, like what did our parents and their parents struggle with, and what trauma was passed down through the lines. And like, I see myself as a circuit breaker, like somebody who breaks the cycle of my generational tree so that I can free them of the pain that they had and free the line forward so that they no longer need to deal with that. And I think that's why, like, it's at least my belief that if you have some conscious awareness and you have some ability to choose to be in environments that will force your growth, then you owe it to generations down, in your family and also generations gone by. Like, what struggle, what hurt, what pain did they all go through so you could fucking be here today?
Yeah, smart. Well, in 2017, actually, the reason why I left my family business was because for about 3 years, I was having a recurring nightmare. And the nightmare was that, and it feels a bit weird to say out loud, because the first part of it does really make me sound like a cock. But I'll say it because it was the nightmare. The nightmare was that we were stood round my grave, and I don't want to go under I want to be burned anyway. So straight away I'm thinking, what's this all about? Right? So we stood round my grave, and I'm in the coffin, and I'm being lowered down, and my headstone was already there when I got there in the coffin. And I could see the headstone, and all my people were there, And the headstone says, and I feel such a knob saying this out loud, but the headstone said, here lies, this is the bit that just makes me sound like a dickhead. This is what it said. Here lies the great Matt Elwell. What the fuck? He didn't add up to very much. I was like, that hurts. And I buried the nightmare. Anyway, my uncle, a wonderful man, he left South Africa during apartheid in the 70s as a conscientious objector. And he fought racism. Not that the colour of anybody's skin's important, but for this story, he was a white South African who fought racism, And he came to England with nothing. His name was Peter Wintermore. And he was a very spiritual man. He was a preacher and a dentist. And he married my mum's sister, who was from Erdington, Birmingham. So how these two people found each other, I have no idea. But it's meant to happen. Anyway, he was a wonderful man. And he guided me in so many things in my life. And my dad suffers with manic depression and bipolar disorder. And I didn't get on particularly well with my dad. He's still around today. He's 77. We get on fine nowadays. But it was tough. And what Uncle Peter gave me was a role model, somebody to look up to. Anyway, after 41 years, he retired as a dentist. And he really had worked his socks off, and and he really cared about humans, and taking the pain out of your mouth was his God-given talent. You know, he didn't care about the money. They were wealthy, you know, but it wasn't about the money for him. And he got a brain tumour a few weeks later, a terminal cancer, and he was gone within about 12 weeks. And I was with him all the way through. You know, my sister, my brother, and I were close, and we were close to the family. You know, and he died with so much grace. It was unbelievable. And I remember saying to him, just a few days before he passed, you know, he got as the surgeon was cutting the cancer out of the brain, it was growing back.
Wow.
And I only know that, by the way, because my brother had a brain tumour 2 years ago, and the same surgeon operated on my brother. He survived.
Wow.
My brother survived. My uncle passed from it, and he was so gracious the way. And I said to him, you know, I said, have you made this so easy? And he believed that life on earth is a stepping stone to something else. That was his belief. So he was good to go, if that makes sense. But he just said, look, my nickname's Bear in the house, you know, in the family. And this is my best South African. He was like, Bear, humans need hope to cope. And I was like, wow, what does that mean? And he went, I'm hopeful that the surgeon will cut this out and I'll be the first one that survives, you know, and I'll live longer. And it didn't work out for him. But I remember I was able after that to make a big decision that I was going to end that nightmare and do something about it. And I was like, right, I have to add up to something. And the first decision I needed to make was to stop tolerating things that were not acceptable in my life. And what I learned is what you tolerate, you become. So I'd tolerated behaviours off other people and I was blaming them, but actually it was me. I was the problem. And Uncle Peter's lesson enabled me to go, I've got to change. I'm willing to change now and I've got to change. Because right now, if it was my time and I died with an aggressive brain tumour, and look, let's face it, a bit morbid, but none of us are getting out alive. So, like, when my time comes, I can't have that shit.
Yeah.
I need people to be going to my beautiful children and saying, your dad made a difference to me. And that was a turning point in my life.
Beautiful. One. Yeah, it's big.
Yeah.
We're coming to an end.
Yeah.
Could keep talking
We could.
forever.
Gonna hit the road, man.
Yeah.
Things to do.
60 seconds. What do they need to know about Matt Elwell Elite Closing Academy so they can potentially get involved and join one of your trainings? Or what would be the next logical step?
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I think, the next logical step really is, you know, if you recognise that selling is an area of your business that if you were to focus on it and put some energy into it, it could grow, then my advice is, it doesn't have to be me, but my advice is to find somebody out there that is aligned with your values, that is not doing greasy, sleazebag, horrible salesy stuff, that has got the best interests of other people at heart. And like, if that is me, I'll go check me out. Like, check my YouTube channel out, read my book. You can, I mean, my book
Open with the Close.
My book's called Open with the Close, yeah. It's on, I'm humbled to share this actually, because again, like, I'm no writer, and that was my mindset at the time. I am now. And I wrote my book as a gift, as a tool from what I learned in the recession in 08. I was like, I'm going to document this. And I've sold it in 19 countries around the world now.
Nice.
Which is really quite humbling. And I get lovely little notes off people saying, hey, like, I've just asked this one question on page 37 and like, it worked, thank you. So that was really humbling. So you can get it on Spotify, you can get it on all the normal social media channels, Audible. Like, it takes 2.5 hours to listen to it. Put it on in your ears, listen to it, check it out. And it might not be for them, you know, but if it is, you go, move towards us, join the community, eliteclosingacademy.com, check it out, you know, and get into our world if they want to, you know. But if it's not me, I'd strongly advise people. I always say, and I said it earlier, I think, that the individuals that can sell in line with their values in a natural way, that make the customer experience easy, they're easy to buy from, and they're great at marketing, and they're great at delivering. Like, it's just the winning formula. And I think for many people, unfortunately, sales still is an Achilles heel. And if it's that thing that, like me, it's a pattern that you recognise in yourself that you need to do better, my advice is to push into the resistance, really. And you can learn it now. It's teachable. And it's, you can learn something that's easy to learn and make it your own. 25, 30 years ago when I started out in business, that there were a few like American trainers like Zig Ziglar and stuff,
Yeah.
But
70s, 80s, 90s stuff, yeah.
But there wasn't good information out there. I mean, I follow a few people who, great information. There's a guy in America, Jeb Blount, he's brilliant. There's a couple of guys in the UK that I listen to, and so there's enough people out there, hopefully as well as me, that people can find, But I just go, look, when you get great at sales, you'll never be poor again financially, but much more importantly, you'll never be poor again emotionally. That's important.
Beautiful. Any parting words? Or, I mean, that sounds like a big, it's a big statement to end on.
No, I think just to say thank you to you. I love you. I love what you do. I love the way you do it. And I think, the podcast, I've been watching it. I've been following all your little snippets that you do with these. I've heard a few like really good snippets and stuff. And I said to you, the other day, like, you're doing it properly, and everything you do it properly. And I think that's really smart. And I think, the people that are following you, the people that are in your world have made a good choice, because not only are you a talented person in business, but you're a talented human, and, you really care. So well done, and thank you for having me. It's been great to be here.
Thanks for driving up. Appreciate it.
Good. Thank you.